And welcome back to stream 2 of Area of Effect. I am your host, Jade Valkyrie, and like always, we do have some questions on deck, but you can ask your questions for a QA session to be answered at the end of the panel by typing in command question in Twitch chat, which will bring up a form for you to submit your questions. Those in Discord can be on the lookout for this form and panel announcements. All right, so we are switching things up now, and this is going to be a deep dive into games leadership by Justin Dinges. So without further ado, Justin, take it away.
Thanks, Jade. So my name's Justin Dinges. I am a leader in the game industry. I work at 343 Industries, and I'm hoping to talk everybody through kind of, my journey to get here, and what does a person in leadership do, and answer any questions that people may have for getting into the industry or becoming a leader, or maybe you are a leader and you need help. Happy to help as I can. So let me get this started. So my journey started I went to Savannah College of Art and Design back in 2000, graduated in 2004 with a degree in computer art. I wanted to get into video games. That was the new hot thing back then. And after I graduated SCAD, I jumped into freelancing for a bit. So this is my awesome stock image. I did not look like this, not nearly as organized as that. Freelancing art and, trying to figure out the industry, trying to see how I get into it, those kind of things. So through a couple of years of hard work, I was fortunate enough to land a studio job with Raven Software, very awesome company, been around for a long time. I was there for about 4 years as a mid-level and then eventually a senior environment artist on their team. And so while I was there, I got the opportunity to work on some really awesome games: X-Men Origins, Wolverine, Singularity, Call of Duty Black Ops, and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. And so really had a great time there, learned a lot, and kind of as part of my journey of being a lead, it helped being at that and being on those projects. And so after Raven, I went over to 343 Industries, which is where I'm at now. While there, I've worked on Halo 4, Halo 5, and I'm currently on Halo Infinite. We'll talk about my job title and my responsibilities in a second. So becoming a leader, I should say being a leader and how you get to being a leader is different for every person. There's no right or wrong way. Everybody's an individual. Everybody has their own style. So whenever I talk about leadership, please know it is very much from my perspective. There's no overarching rules or guidelines on how to do it well, and it's really about learning and getting to where you need to go. Running a team. So joined 343 Industries as a senior environment artist on Halo 4. While I was there on Halo 4, I got the opportunity to be a map lead on some of their Spartan Ops maps, and so that was my first real taste of kind of that responsibility of leading a group of people and, hitting the deadlines and those kind of things, all the organization that goes into it. I had about 3 artists, I want to say 3 artists under me, and we created 2 of the Spartan Up maps that shipped with the game. After Halo 4 shipped, I got the opportunity to be the lead environment artist on Halo 5 for the campaign specifically. So it was a huge step up in responsibility. A lot of learning happened, which we'll talk about soon. And it's really just, again, that path of starting from being, just a regular person who's doing, awesome work for the game to having a lot more responsibility on something as important as a, ginormous franchise like Halo. I got the opportunity after Halo 5 to dabble with being a creative director on Halo Infinite for a couple of years. Very interesting experience, very hard, setting kind of the tone and idea of the game, and then prototyping and testing it and getting lots of feedback. Definitely a part of me being a better leader when I look back. And then for the actual production of the game, I shifted back over to being the art lead for campaign. I oversee, that's my current job. I oversee specifically the world and environment team for the campaign. I manage roughly 25 people, and I work closely with other teams. So we'll talk about kind of the specifics of what that means. So I get this question a lot: is what do I do as a lead? Right? A lot of people don't know. Having not been a lead, it's hard to know what it is. And again, every company, every person is going to have a different idea and way that works. But for me, this is what entails being the campaign art lead currently for Halo. So I do all my own hiring. A big part of obviously being a leader is having a team. So I take hiring very seriously. I scour the internet, ArtStation, LinkedIn, looking for artists who I think would fit the needs that I have on the team, assuming I'm hiring. And that's actually, it can take a lot of time to hire. Not only interviewing people, but just finding people can be difficult at times. So hiring is a big part of mine. And, that'll fluctuate through a production. At some points, you'll be hiring a lot of people. Other times, you'll be hiring nobody. So it really just depends in production where you're at on the game. So I get a team, I've hired them. A big part of leadership is having a process for people to follow. And that sounds really boring. I actually don't like that word very much, but it's super important once you've been in it and realize how wrong it can go if you don't have process. An example being, what steps do you take to make the game, right? You have to start with something simple and you have to build it up in fidelity over time. You have to label what those steps are in production. And then you have to explain it to your team, because the process isn't worth anything if the team doesn't understand it or follow it. And so there's a lot that goes into that. It's incredibly important. That's one where when I started in leadership, I didn't really think it was that important. And I quickly learned how wrong I was. And so it's a big part of my process of running my team these days. And with that comes scheduling and prioritizing work. So as a leader, you're not just there to be the face of your team. You actually have to do some of the work that I don't consider it very fun, but I know others do. Schedule and prioritizing work. Otherwise, nothing really gets done, or a lot of little things get done, or they get going, but they never get done because you didn't follow the schedule. So I work really closely with production and other leads to ensure that we know the work we're doing on our teams. We've prioritized it correctly against itself, and we know the dates we need to hit in order to deliver those things. That's the paperwork side of things that can be not glamorous, but at the same time, again, so important. Partner team scheduling and planning, it's kind of in the same boat. A lot of times I have to coordinate, I work closely with, whether it's design or effects or environment or audio or whoever it might be. Partnering with those teams is actually quite important to me, because I know if we don't partner and we don't, work our schedules together, it's very easily at a game, you're looking at a really big team on Halo. It's really easy for things to start slamming on top of each other in terms of work. And it can be cause a lot of chaos and a lot of frustration between teams if you don't have that synergy of kind of a schedule and a process. So workflow and graphics needs. Again, some of these things that you might not think of as a lead needing or a leadership position needing to do, but running the World Art team for campaign, a lot of our work is dependent on the workflows, right? So we can't do work if it doesn't work. And so a lot of the times what I'm doing is, and I'm utilizing my team to get me information, compiling all the information we need in order to basically explain how we need to work or what's not working in order to do our day-to-day jobs as artists. And so I work as closely as I can with the workflow, with the tools teams. Same with graphics engineers. A lot of stuff, again, the art team is very visual based. And so we're always needing or asking for additional, rendering techniques or graphical features or, just general workflows. And so a big part of the job ends up being, and again, it depends what time of the project it is. This type of work this type of coordination comes when we're kind of heavy in production, or at the beginning of production, I suppose, too. And so this is the more fun part. I think I listed there a couple things that sound not so awesome, but they come with the job. Partnering with art direction and creative direction. And so that's where, as a leader, I find I get to kind of scratch the itch of making sure I have influence over what I think the game should and can be. Again, we're all partners in all these things, so we get together and we have discussions about stuff, sometimes all day long. Of how do we want to, solve a problem with it, whether it be design or art or, just the experience all up. And so that's probably one of the most enjoyable parts about being a lead is working with other leadership, other, directors of the project, and really coming together and coming up with a plan that we think would be successful for like the game and the experience of the game. Doesn't always pan out great, but we try really hard, and it's really rewarding when it does pan out. Daily reviews, and so when you're running an art team, when you're collaborating with other artists, a lot of the time um, you need to be able to give feedback. And again, I'm looking at a big team on that, I manage, and then I'm trying to help other teams move forward with what we need to do. And so setting up reviews is not something, I think when I started in my leadership role, I didn't really do it. And then I started adding them. And now, I try and get it into more of a cadence where people, have a chance to, especially with this work at home stuff, has thrown such a wrench into, and made us evolve, I suppose, into how we do things. We can't just get up and walk over to somebody's desk. So a big part of it is setting up art reviews, I should specifically say. And so where we go and review the art or review the game in general, the experience, and we collaborate on what's working, what's not working, if there's an issue and we need to go resolve it outside of just the review, and those kind of things. So that's a really big fun part for me, because it's the ability to look at what's going on in the game, influence it, and then help anybody who needs help if they're stuck, or if they're having issues, or they don't know, or they're confused rather. That's where I can step in and I can help that, so that we can unblock that person. Well, I just said it. Problem solving. One of the biggest surprises to me as being a leader is, I think probably half my day is problem solving. And that also keeps it super entertaining and super engaging. I spend a ton of time problem solving, whether it's visuals or a management issue with someone, or a date that I forgot about, which can happen, or missing a milestone or hitting a milestone. There's always something going on to keep me on my toes. And so a lot of my day, 50% of my day is probably problem solving. And now that problem solving, like I was just saying, is across different spectrums of work. So that's what keeps it interesting. It's rarely ever the same problem. It always evolves or changes, or turns into the next level of monster to come after me. Although my daughter was telling me before this, as I was looking at this slide, she thinks I'm the problem, although she's 11 years old, so I'll give her that. But I do believe I problem solve. She thinks I'm the problem, though. So thank you, Grace. Meetings. So this is kind of one of those words that I think people can cringe at. I used to cringe at. I'm in meetings all day long. And people say, "Oh, how can you handle that? That's so hard." Coming from being a content creator before, to basically having to go to meetings all day. And usually, what I tell everybody is meetings are incredibly important. As long as you're actually achieving something in that meeting, so I'll skip meetings if I don't think that's going to happen. But as long as you're achieving a thing that needs to be resolved, even if it's not fun, it is incredibly important to the team that as a leader, you go and do those things and you take care of that. That's that responsibility you have for your team. Either way, I would cross out the fact that it says meetings, and you can look at it as collaboration. And so, yes, it is a meeting that gets scheduled, because finding everybody together at the same time is very hard. But look at meetings and look at those kind of things as, the things that I have to do with leadership as collaboration. And sometimes a collaboration is, why didn't this thing get done? And we got to figure out why and what we do to fix it. And sometimes a collaboration is, hey, this is awesome. We can sign off and we can, say this thing is done and it's great. So it really just depends. But most of my day is that collaboration, meetings, problem solving kind of situation. Again, not every lead is the same. And so that's where I'm very hesitant to ever say this is what leadership is. This is what my leadership is as the art lead for campaign. And so ultimately, my goal with all this is setting the team up for success. If you set, and that's it's kind of a cheesy line, but I believe it very passionately. If you set your team up for success, you set your game up for success, or at least you have a very good chance of doing so. Um, if you give your team unreasonable deadlines, if you give them unreasonable expectations, um, you're you're not going to win. There's no good that comes from that. And so all these things I listed up above here, I do these things, and this is part of my job, so that I can set my team up for success, so we can set the game up for success and the company up for success. It is not nearly that easy. There's all kinds of complications, which I'll allude to in a second. But that is my ultimate goal as a leader. And so, probably seen one of these images on the internet. I grabbed it from the internet. I like to save these images because I find them humorous. But it's true. Like, some of these are actually quite accurate, or at least I found them to be quite accurate. When you think of like what does success look like, it's you start here and you go up, right? And you just do those things that you think you're supposed to do, and you get there. That would be awesome. I think we all aim for that to be the case. But if you know this image, you know that there's this image as well. What reality really looks like is not what you think it does. And so, as a leader, again, going back to that problem solving, a lot of it is just stuff happens, right? Whether it's technology, issues, it's, personnel issues, it's creative issues, which happen quite a lot, or if it's just personal people issues, right? People get sick, they have babies, they want to take a vacation, all those wonderful things. And so, as a leader, you have to get you. So people will ask me, they're like, "Oh, you're much calmer than I thought you would be," when they tell me, bad news or something. Something's changing that week. And usually I am calm. Sometimes I get upset, but um, I did it because it's more of I am expecting something to happen. I don't know what it will be, and it's my job now as a leader to go and course correct the team, or course correct the situation, I should say, so that the team can get back on track, so we can solve whatever issue it is. And so these two images have always kind of sat well with me. I mean, ignore the words specifically, but the reality is success and being a leader, or an individual, even this applies to individuality and that success. But being a leader, having success in leadership rather, is not a straightforward line. It is, and the bigger the team, the bigger the project, the more complications you will most definitely bump into as you're doing it. So if you look at what it can feel like really quick, this is my favorite GIF ever for work. It is not implying that people do this at 343. This is not what the office looks like. This is what I feel like. And if you replace all of these people with the different problems, instead of actually being people, they're just like issues that pop up. This is what it can feel like for me. And I say this humorously, like no negativity there. But it's definitely, it kind of comes with the job, the situation. What it can look like, I decided to share this picture. This is me. I fell asleep in a meeting as we were shipping Halo 5. I guess I fell asleep. They turned the lights down, so it was really unfair. The lights are on now, but they're off when we're doing reviews. So it's very dark. Anyway, it's the exhaustion of the situation, and being leaders. I mean, anybody can be exhausted, but I fell asleep during a review as we were shutting down Halo 5, and I woke up to find this on social media. Two good friends of mine decided to take a selfie with me. And so that kind of leads into my next quick thing in team health, and especially now with work from home and COVID, this is even more important to consider. One thing, and I think even in my own career, I considered this, just do hard work and I'll get to where I need to go. And there's some truth to that. But what actually makes you productive, or you can change that with successful, in my opinion, and I'm going to apply this to what it means to be a leader, is having that balance of those things. It's not just about hard work. You need it, like that only takes you so far, and you literally you'll lose your energy, right? You won't be productive anymore. So as a lead, I have to consider this for myself, although I tend to forget. But I really have to consider this for the people that I lead, below me. And I mean that. A lot of people, they'll come to me and say, "Oh, I got to take these days off because I got to do this thing. I'm really sorry." And I said, usually I'm just, don't be sorry. I mean, if you need to do that, that is your right to do those things, and I want you to go do those things. So as a leader, it's important because I've seen other leaders who, they gloss over how important this is. And I think it's really important for anybody who's out there. And if you have a lead who doesn't respect something like this, I would suggest getting a new one, whatever that looks like. But this to me is extremely important for everyone, not only leadership, but individuals, to make sure that you're doing those things that you want to do and that make you happy in life and not just hard work. And especially if you're a leader, looking out for those people and making sure that they are staying healthy, because it's easy to get sucked into the passion of making a game. It's easy to want to work 80 hours. Well, it's not easy, but it can be easy, especially when you're starting out. That passion is just flowing so hot. We do need experienced people to help save people from themselves sometimes, and to represent their team in case unreasonable things are being asked of them from above, right? And so I am the guardian of my team in some ways. That's how I consider myself. So leadership realities. I grabbed this screenshot from Wasteland 3. I was playing through it. I had to stop recently, but I want to get back into it. I love how they have leadership as an actual skill bar you fill out, because leadership is a skill. Being a leader on any team, anywhere, is something that you have to develop and put time and effort into. You have to be open to it. I think there's some misconceptions in the industry that, you being the best whatever at your job means that you will eventually become a leader. I like to pop that bubble a little bit, just because I think those expectations they don't usually pan out as well as people think. Leadership is its own skill. Making art, as an example, different types of art. If you're a hard surface artist, or you're a natural biome artist, or you're the surfacing artist, or whatever, spaceship artist, being awesome at that is an incredibly important role to do. But leadership is a separate role, and sometimes you can do both. I have, in the recent years, had to put more points in my RPG sheet into leadership than I have in anything else, just because that's how, I want to be successful at it, and I need to keep working on those things. So I've foregone, putting a lot of art into the game. Like I said, I give a lot of feedback. We do reviews, but I learned in Halo 5 that trying to do your old work, your old job, which for me was making environments, and do a good job at being a leader of people don't always overlap, just because you don't have enough time to do both well. And so as a leader, I made the choice to shift all of my skill points into leadership. I'm also a bit of a hard ass, so I thought that was ironic. Into that, and I forego other things that I used to do, and those still bring me joy. I'm just a little rusty at them. So I thought that was worth mentioning, because that's definitely I've seen that as a misconception in the industry, that being good means you're going to be a leader. And then here's another one. I consider myself an introvert. I don't like small talk. I'm not good at it. I don't like it. And so, whether I thought I'd ever be a leader in the industry or not, it's definitely something that has been more of a challenge for me, being, as I didn't know it at the time. I've later had somebody kind of analyze me and let me know I'm an introvert. And it totally makes sense. This is one where I just want to let people know that even if you're not comfortable, doing public speaking or those kind of things, if you can find situations where you can practice at it and get better at it and learn how to deal with the exhaustion that usually comes after, which is what I find, exerting social interactions, there is a road for you, and it's definitely possible, speaking from experience. So leadership learnings. So again, I'm going to repeat. None of these are rules. Everybody's going to lead differently. These are the things I found successful running my teams. I hope the people that have been a part of my teams agree. I'm sure not all of them do, but these are things that I wanted to pass on to other folks who, if you're considering you want to be a lead, or you want to look into what does it mean to be a leader. Again, these are my opinions, or however I can help anybody is kind of my goal here. So leadership learnings from, I guess, the past 8 years of being quote unquote a leader. Opportunities come with time. I wanted to mention that, and that's why I kind of showed my own progression in the beginning of this. Um, I think when I was early in my career, I really wanted to be a lead on one of the projects, and I was like, oh, I feel like I'm going to do a good job. I feel like I'm going to do this. It didn't happen, and I was actually I was kind of pissed off. Not at anybody, just more of like the fact that it didn't happen. What I learned later was just give it time, right? Opportunities will come. You really have to keep, grit and grind. You have to keep working at it. You have to keep making good decisions. You have to, start small and grow big in terms of leadership. So just keep it in mind. It might not happen right away, but it's something that definitely can happen in the future if you keep working at it and keep being a good person. People matter. And now I won't want to say when I started being a leader, I didn't think people mattered. Of course, people matter, but I realize more now how much it matters and the intricacies of being a leader and what you sign your team up for and how it can affect them, at home or psychologically or, with stress, those kind of things. And so people matter and you can't forget that ever. Now, I have a line somewhere where, if somebody's acting too ridiculous, we need to, step it back into the professional realm. But I am very much of the mindset to let people make their decisions and have trust in them, so that they can find the balance in their lives between work and home. With that, the schedule matters, and so to get back to that reality, um, it's why I spend so much time working on my schedules and working on schedules for the project. Is because if you don't do the schedule well, then you're going to hurt the people that are working on the game, and ultimately, the game's quality won't be as good as it should have been. Um, these are all easier said than done because of all those complications that come into play each week. But schedule matters. And so being responsible as a leader means being responsible about the work that you sign teams up for or your team up for and what it means to the game that you're trying to ship. Yeah, well, ironically. It's not all fun and games. Being a lead, I found it can be very stressful, super rewarding. I love doing it. But it's not just sitting around and telling people what to do. I'm going to get to it, but it's a lot of responsibility and follow through. Confronting toxicity. So that's one thing that, I probably would not have said as part of my job or, part of a role as a leader a few years ago. But, with experience, everybody's different. Um, People get disgruntled, all kinds of things in any industry. And so a good leader I have found will, and when I say confront, I don't mean aggressively. I mean, you can't ignore that things are going on with someone, you know, whatever the case may be in that toxicity. But it's really important that as leaders, we go and you know, we resolve the issue that is happening for the sake of the team and the sake of the morale. Enabling your team. So this is kind of back to my philosophy of I don't micromanage my team. I hate micromanaging. Um, I look to my role being I need to enable them to do the work that's been outlined through process and schedule and just discussions, right? Creative discussions and art direction as an example. And so enabling my team is one of my biggest roles. I've seen other leaders throughout the years who think their role is to set the highest quality bar for their team to follow. That's their choice. I see it as I need to make sure I hire people who are talented to enable them to do the work that needs to get done for the game and for the project and for the fans. And so enabling my team is a really big thing. And that can look as far as like how do we make sure the right amount of work is load balanced on a person, or it could be, hey, this workflow that they need to do to finish their work and make something really awesome looking hasn't been working for a month. How do we get this fixed so that they can actually get their work done? So it kind of goes in multiple directions there. Creating clarity. If you've ever been on a team, regardless of what degree in the chain you are, senior, junior, mid, or a leader, if you don't have clarity, it's really hard to hit your goals. And I find it really hard to be happy. And so, ambiguity is one of the killers of creativity, or at least getting things done on time, put it that way. And so, one of my biggest, I talked about all those things I do each day, and some of them are not fun. But I do that to create clarity and to create kind of a plan for the team. I'll give an example of, if you ask somebody to go make a spaceship, super random example, and they say, what kind of spaceship do you want? And you tell them, I don't know, just a spaceship. Chances are it's going to take them a while to get to the thing that you ask them to do. And so however we can go and create clarity, whether it's having a concept made or giving them parameters for sizes or the functionality of a thing or the narrative about it, whatever it is, a big part of my job is to make sure people understand what they need to do so they can go do that. Again, a part of enabling your team in a way. Problem solving. So, like I said before, you have to be prepared to problem solve. I think the difference between successful leadership and not successful leadership is your ability or your team's ability to problem solve something. Because in games, it's a creative process. It is massively complex, massively. And there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of deadlines. And if you are not willing or ready, mentally ready, that's probably the hardest part, to solve problems, then it's going to pile up on you really fast and it won't be a fun experience. And so being able to problem solve is one of the key attributes to, I think, a good leader these days in a field like video games. Mistakes are part of learning. Here's one that I think is incredibly important. I've made so many mistakes as a leader. The thing that I know I don't do is I don't make the same mistake twice, or at least it's not obvious it's the same mistake. Learn from your mistakes. They are part of growth, and they are part of learning how to do any job. Whether you're the person who's making awesome rocks for the game, or this awesome character, or you're the head of the studio, you have to learn from your mistakes and you have to adjust. Because part of the process is, if you go back to that silly image of what success looks like, is you're going to get all those wrenches get thrown at you, creative wrenches, technology wrenches, and you're going to make mistakes along the way. Because if you've never encountered that situation, it is really hard to come out with like the perfect solution, especially when you're leading people, right? You do your best to get all the information and make choices, but chances are you're going to make some mistakes. So reacting to your mistakes and taking responsibility. This is one that I stress to a lot of people in leadership around me, is if we mess up, or if I mess up, it's easier to take responsibility and fix it than it is to deflect or defer or blame or anything like that. So taking responsibility is a really important leadership attribute for anybody who's looking to do that. You're not the star of the show. So this one's a little dour. Being a leader does not mean you're more important than the person who's doing the work below you. I think that is another misnomer that happens, or misconception rather, is that people, they want to get into leadership so that they can be the person designing the game or setting all the, standards for the game. Now, there's a ton of influence that comes with being a lead and being able to influence the game rather, and, the end result. But really, it's not about you being the most awesome person on the team. It is about you enabling and helping the team get to where we need to go so that the product is awesome for the people that are, that want to play it, the fans. And so that's one of those things I've encountered a couple times with a few folks, and I just want to set the record straight on that one. Be honest. So this is something I do. I get in trouble for it occasionally. I try not to be rude when I'm honest. I think that's probably the hinge there. Honesty when you're a leader, whether it's towards your team or the other leaders around you, or the people above you who are expecting things, honesty is the key. If you're not honest, it will always come back to bite you in the butt. So honest leaders are the best leaders, in my opinion. And with that, that's kind of the overview. I know there's a lot of information, a lot of opinions of mine, but I'm hoping people can kind of at least have an understanding of what the industry looks like from my point of view, being the art lead on campaign for Halo, and maybe it generates some questions and such for y'all. And happy to open it up to Q&A.
Yeah, so we have some amazing questions in the chat already. So we're just going to start off with the hiring process. There's some questions there.
Cool.
So what What is a great way to stand out during the hiring process?
Oh yeah, that is a really good question because I waste more time looking for people than I do finding people. And so if you want to stand out, and I'm going to speak specifically for artists, being the art lead. I can't speak for engineers and design as much, although I probably have some ideas. But for artists, if you want to get noticed, um, I'll use ArtStation as a really good example right now. ArtStation, if you don't know, it's a website and it's people's portfolios. I when I'm looking for somebody, I actually start scouring ArtStation to see what was posted, right, and see if it's kind of in line with things I was looking for. Um, if if I find somebody, the next step is I go to their LinkedIn. So having those two, in my opinion, it's kind of like making sure you're out there in places that people are looking. And so what I'm getting at is that I look in LinkedIn and I look at ArtStation a lot when I'm trying to hire somebody. Um, with things like Facebook and Instagram now, I follow pages like different 3D sites, things like that. And so when they start featuring people on there, that's another way that, I start noticing. I'll see, oh, that looks so cool, and I'll click it and I'll follow the link. I'll go to that person's ArtStation. I'll go to their LinkedIn, seeing if they, if where they're at, if they're in country or not. Um, and then generally I reach out. But really, sorry, I'm long-winded answer. Really is just how easy are you? Am I able to find you? Chances are I'm not going to find your personal website if I'm looking on ArtStation, as an example. So I always recommend, and that may change. ArtStation is a very specific example of like what's cool right now, but it is a pretty cool site. Yeah, so that's where I go. And so yeah, making yourself as visible to people looking for you as much as you can. I do not lean on recruitment agencies or people really much to help me. I haven't had much success in that.
And then from there, when you see that person's initiative, are there any particular traits that you're looking to hire someone on your team?
Yeah, so for me, it's more about the role I end up hiring for different roles, right? And so if I'm looking for a hard surface artist, someone who hard surface being, mechanical buildings or robots, or industrial looking things. I'm looking for a portfolio that shows me good examples of that. And so it really depends on the role. And then once I see good examples, I generally don't even care how much experience you have. I feel like I can teach you a lot of things. If we were to hire you, regardless of experience, although experience helps. I'm mostly looking at how good is your art, how cool is it, how applicable is it to the Halo universe, and then I'll drop you an email usually, and sometimes even the email response matters to me. If it's like poorly written and kind of half-assed, it doesn't leave me a good impression because I'm looking for somebody who's going to be a good teammate on my team, right? That's part of that responsibility of being a good leader, is building a team that is functional and healthy and mature. I don't want to see your life story. I just want to, have some complete sentences. Um, and from there, I have a phone chat, and that gives me the second half of the puzzle, which is, can I speak to you? Can I ask you questions? Does it feel good? I'm actually a pretty soft interviewer because I'm more interested in who the person actually is, not what they think I want to hear, kind of situation. So hopefully that kind of answers it, I hope.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then from there, you're talking about email. Is that one of your preferred ways to network? And how would you what is a way that you would suggest people looking to contact leaders to network? What is a good way for them to do that?
Networking's interesting. I think for me, again, I'm speaking purely from my perspective. Like, I guess I have people email me. I always feel terrible when I don't get around to replying. I always mean to. Um, I think the biggest one for me is the relevance of connecting. So I'll use LinkedIn again as an example of like networking. I have a lot of LinkedIn connections. people will connect with me or send me an invite to connect, but I don't really have a relevance to that person if they don't say, hey, look, here's my artwork. I'd love to get feedback. And so kind of engaging me in a way that is genuinely useful. Don't waste my time, please. Genuinely useful is kind of what I think works for me. Or they can say, hey, I saw that you guys are looking for, this role, or hey, if you need this role, here's my portfolio. Kind of that introduction that makes it relevant. I think, again, being introverted in the sense that I am, I have only limited energy that I can expend, I find, with socializing. So I'm more interested in people who say, I'm trying to do this. How, can you give me any advice, or, engaging me in a way that, makes it feel like I can then help that person with an actual goal. That's kind of my advice there. I don't know if that works for anybody else. That works for me. Definitely, I've seen it because I've hired people because they've just reached out with a cool image, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Hey, I might actually be looking for someone. So.
And then, as far as you talking about leadership and how it's so important to take care of your team, how do you keep your team motivated despite conflicts and obstacles?
That's where the clarity comes in. Usually, and this is what I hope happens. Usually, when people get into conflict or in discrepancy between opinions, or I wanted to do this, but the art director is telling me to do that. My job tends to come in and get, and this is where meetings are important, and actually having like communication between each other. This stuff spirals out of control through emails, in my opinion, because people start just typing away, not thinking about, what might get read into it. So getting people together and having them, talk about the issue. And then I feel like I'm at a level of respect across the team where I can help make a decision, even if it's not the decision that, one person may have really wanted. My job is to help hopefully explain it in a way why it makes sense, why we need to make a decision. Sometimes I say I don't even want to deal with it and I let them deal with it. But generally I try and kind of mediate the conflict. Or sometimes it's easy and it's just like, yeah, one of those is not really an option because of time or budget or whatever. And so morale can get affected by that. I have people who definitely are extremely passionate about certain things in the game. Shout out to Adam. Extremely passionate, and you have to, I try not to smash their hopes and dreams too much with, what they want to see in the game, creatively. I try really hard to handle that gently. Because sometimes it's just, it's not in the cards to go do certain things, depending on the scope of it. And so it is part of my job to talk people through that, and hopefully they come out, they're not happy, but they're not, the morale is not gone down because of it.
So do you find it difficult to manage personalities within your team?
Yeah. Answer that way too fast. I find it difficult to manage different personalities. I have found that in the past. It's some of my hardest moments have been with some hard personalities, managing them. I reflect back onto why hiring is so important. If you hire people who you get a feeling that you're going to be able to talk through issues because you've tried to do that through the interview process, and you can understand how they think, and you hire the right people who have the right mentalities for, again, problem solving, those kind of things, because the game industry is full of wrenches and snakes and dynamite. It really makes that an easier process later. So like I was saying, I'm rambling a little bit, but like I was saying, managing harder personalities is one of the hardest parts of the job. You have to take it very seriously. And I don't mean like serious, like, staring them in the face. I mean serious, like you need to care a lot, have a lot of empathy as well. But at the end of the day, it's your job as a leader to explain to that person why, whatever issue is happening, whether it's toxicity or poor performance, and why we need to, why that needs to get corrected, and what can we do to help correct it as a first step. So it's definitely challenging, but it comes with the territory. And hiring good people is the first step to preventing having to do that too often, in my opinion.
Sure. Of course. And don't worry, you're not rambling. This is just,
Okay.
this is the you show. This is the Justin Dinch show for right now.
Oh boy.
So, but as an introvert myself, I love to hear more about your approach of waving the flag or being the one to lead the charge for your team.
In what way, I guess? Do you have an example of what you're thinking?
Just kind of like having that their natural inclination to just kind of be in the back line, but then realizing that you have to take that extra step because you are the leader.
Yeah, it definitely took time. I think, probably the first few times where like I felt like I had to step up and stand up. I may have even skirted it. I may have avoided it. I can't remember. Um, but over time, I guess for me, passion plays into a lot of it. I feel very strongly about certain things. Protecting my team, protecting the project are two of those. And so my my friend, who's the art director on Halo Infinite on the campaign, he likes to tell me I like to talk. I don't like to talk. I do it because I feel the necessity to do so in the role I'm in. Like when I'm at home, I don't talk very much. So I kind of force myself. I kind of push myself off that cliff to just start going and start handling it because I see that as my responsibility for the role that I've been put in. And you know what? At the end of the day, if I didn't want that responsibility or if it was too much, I would have to choose to step away from it, right? And so I don't do that. So I see that as my own responsibility to the team, project, those kind of things, to be present, to care, and to put myself out there in many conversations every day.
Wow.
But it definitely takes time. It's not one of those things you can just leap into and you're gonna feel good. When I first started doing it, sorry to go on, I remember coming home, and it still happens probably, and just being exhausted all the time, right? And aside from working out, all I've done all day was talk, and it's just it can really drain you. But at the end of the day, you're making an awesome game, hopefully, and people are relatively happy, and you solved all those things that popped up throughout the week. It just came at the cost of being exhausted that day. So.
Yeah, it seems like it's something that you learned and something that you developed as one of the skills of being a leader and
Yeah.
putting in your points into leadership, definitely for sure. And how do you keep on growing and developing your skills as a leader, putting those points in?
A lot of it, yeah, that's a great question. I think a lot of it just comes with the new challenges that you do or don't know are going to come. I mean, in my case, taking on more responsibility was definitely the way I was forced to grow, right? You don't really grow unless you're uncomfortable. And so I was given opportunities to take on more responsibility. And in doing that, it kind of just, assuming you survive the onslaught initially and you learn how to cope with it. It just comes with that time. I mean, I went from on Halo 4 running a small map team with 3 other artists to Halo 5 where I was managing over 20, it was probably close to 30 artists. And that was a huge jump, like from a couple artists with like 3 really awesome, great personality artists to like a bigger spectrum of, people and personalities and problems. And I definitely, like I mentioned earlier, you make mistakes as you're doing that, but you really just have to learn from those mistakes. And then the new challenges come and you got to learn from those mistakes. And eventually you don't realize that you're putting more and more points in, and this, you can apply this to any skill. You're putting more and more points into your skill bar there. And it's really just literal experience you've been gaining, whether you realized it or not.
Oh, thank you so much. And looks like it'll be our last question is, who are other leaders in the industry that you look up towards?
I'd say none. I'm not a big fan of, I'm a fan of people that have affected me. So I have some leaders that I've worked with in the past. I wouldn't say, they're necessarily well-known leaders or anything like that. But they're personality traits that I've learned from being under them, that I apply to now. I don't really emulate or mimic anyone. I'm very, very unique. I'll put it that way. And so, when people ask me who inspires me, those kind of things, I generally actually don't have people who do that. I just have conviction within myself that I need to do a good job, and I need to keep, learning how to do that. I do appreciate a good leader. It is, like I said, it is a skill. It is a skill that not everybody is always great at, even though they are in those positions. And that's just across any industry. Any job you have, you're going to have a boss that's a little questionable sometimes. And so, just the complications of making games makes that even more important for a leader. But I have had some, my current lead is very, we've had really good relationship that we built over, 6 or 7 years. And so those are the folks that, I look up to, but nobody of, internet fame or anything like that.
And I have a urgent message for you, Justin, that Martin, Alex, Eli, Chris, Turner, Adam, and Chloe all say hi, and they're really proud of
Christ.
you.
Okay.
Seems like you've been doing your job.
All right, you did show up. Cool. Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate that.
So, Justin, where can we find you or your artwork on social media? ArtStation, I assume?
It's on ArtStation. Yeah. I mean, I haven't updated my ArtStation since Halo 4. Again, being a lead, you at least in my case, I've sacrificed a lot of that in order to focus on other skills for leadership. But yeah, you can look me up on ArtStation, and you'll see my old work. But maybe one day I'll update it with more stuff. Yeah.
Are you on any other type of social media? Twitter, LinkedIn?
No. I'm on LinkedIn. Yeah, if you wanna show me cool stuff. No, I'm not on Twitter or nothing.
Gotcha. So make sure, chat, if you are interested in any type of art and want some feedback, I assume. Then,
and if anybody wants advice, I'm happy. That's another one. Is I love trying to help somebody if they need it. So if people need advice or anything, feel free to reach out. On LinkedIn's probably the best, or ArtStation, either one. Message me, and I'd love to try and help people, because I didn't get a lot of that back when I was trying to get into the industry. It was a smaller industry, harder to understand. So I'm happy to help anyone as much as I can.
Thank you so much for your time, Justin. Really appreciated this. This is so illuminating. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for hosting me.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.
So this is now the end of our first day of broadcasting at Area of Effect on Stream 2. Thank you for joining us today at Area Effect on Twitch. We are also still taking donations for our causes, Black Girls Code 2040, and Direct Belief on Tiltify, where you can register for the chance to win some awesome prizes. So be sure to check out the information below our stream and hit command, donate, or check out our Discord to find out more on how you can get involved. We also like to thank our sponsors, All-Mid. All-Mid runs and supports nationally sponsored community, collegiate, and convention esports events throughout the U.S. since 2015. Their esports teams are also currently ranked Division I top 10 in the North America field. Corsair, leading global developer and manufacturer of high-performance gear and technology for gamers, content creators, and PC enthusiasts. And TESPA, the largest collegiate network of college students, competitors, and club leaders across North America. This stream is ending, but make sure to check out the end of Stream 1's hosting panel. I'm Jade Valkyrie, and I will see you all there.